10th edition is nearly upon us, and with it comes a refreshing change to how we build army lists, which means that with a new edition, it's time for a new army, and because I'm an extremely sensible person, I have done what everyone else is doing, which is start something completely brand new, except it's totally not. I was sitting there the other day and I was thinking to myself, you know what, once I've got my Armoured Company finished, which I've been talking about finishing for nearly 2 years at this point and still haven't quite managed, what should I do? What should I focus on? What should I make an army of? I mean, with 10th edition on the way, so close now, so close, surely this is the time to branch out, to break out into new and exciting forces, things I've never done before, perhaps go a bit mad with conversions, with an Orc army, maybe pick up my dream force that I'm too terrified to paint in the form of a cheeky Dark Eldar. Surely these are all excellent options until I sat there and just had a bit of a think, a little bit of theory on the go, because the way we build lists in 10th is going to be a little bit different. It's a bit more free, it's a bit more forgiving. You can just take 3 of a specific unit, and unless it's battle line, in which case you can take 6, and that's it. You can pretty much construct your armies how you want to. It's wonderful. It makes it more free, more interesting. There's more room there for crazy or unique builds, and it also means that this is the perfect time to go back to Dreadnought. You see, by my reckoning, the Redemptor is one type of Dreadnought. Then you've also got the Brutalis, which is another type of Dreadnought, and you've got the Ballistus, which is a third type of Dreadnought. Now, of course, 3 of each would be delightful, but that probably means it would be maybe 1800 points or so. We don't have points yet, so it's a bit of a guesstimate, which means that there's not much space for an HQ. Especially if, for instance, you decide to go Blood Angels and throw a cheeky Librarian Dread in there for your HQ, which would be a really nice and fun way of creating a full Dreadnought army. Now, of course, this is completely ignoring the fact that we still have Venerable Dreadnoughts, and we still have Death Company Dreadnoughts, and we still have Ironclad Dreadnoughts. It was only the classic Boxnaut that got kicked out of the range, so we still have many other options outside of the new ones that have been shown off. Not only that, but I'm not a competitive player. I'm unlikely to be rocking up to tournaments every other weekend with whatever army I finally settle on, so it would be not too much of a big deal if, for instance, you still wanted to slot some Contemptors, or some Leviathans, or maybe even a Derridea or 2 in there. The thing is, though, as you know, I've already done the Dreadnought army thing. I've already done that. I had a lot of points of Dreadnoughts when I finally had to sell that army, and so would it really be that sensible, would it be that smart to start that all over again? I mean, starting from scratch with yet another Dreadnought army, even if that Dreadnought army was actually legit this time, which it would be able to be, people just looked the other way. With the old Dreadnought army, I showed up to games which were mostly silly, and no one had a problem with me absolutely ignoring any sort of force organisation. It was just, well, I have this many points of Dreadnoughts, is that okay? And luckily, most people that I played against went, yeah, that's awesome. Also, what a terrible list. Which, of course, it would be, because I put no thought into it whatsoever outside of more Dreadnoughts? More Dreadnoughts. The thing is, it would be quite a commitment to build up a force of that type all over again. It just would. Dreadnoughts are not inexpensive, and in fact they're far more expensive now than they were when I first built that Dreadnought army. I mean, when we look at the cost of the Redemptor, that's gone up. When we look at the fact that we no longer have the easy to build Redemptor, which was the mainstay of that army. Like, I had 6 Redemptors, and 4 of them were easy to build ones, because they were beautifully cheap. What, like 25 quid or something? Absolutely fantastic. No longer an option though, which does make the prospect a little bit more tricky to fully get on board with, especially since realistically I could do anything with the launch of 10th. But you can probably already tell where this is going, and you probably already know that while I could do anything, I'm not gonna do anything. See, I have something of a confession, and that confession is that I never really stopped buying, collecting, or building Dreadnoughts. In fact, the Dreadnought addiction just became less of a public thing. Every now and again I would just tweet a picture of a cheeky Dreadnought, but I wouldn't ever put them together into one shot because, well, it wasn't an army, it was just individual projects, until I put together the list that would now work and be legitimate for the new edition of 40k, and thought to myself, well, okay, if I did do this, if I did go back to my stupid roots and do more Dreadnoughts again, could I get away with it? How many would I actually need to buy now? What sort of head start do I have? Well, it turns out that I have 5 Dreadnoughts currently built and in various states of paint. I also have 2 unbuilt. So actually, if I'm doing a 9 Dreadnought army, I am 1 step ahead of myself because I already have 5 borderline ready to go. That's not bad, especially when you consider that 2 more are already purchased. Don't have to buy them, don't have to fork out the money because they're just sat on the shelf waiting to be turned into something ridiculous, which says a lot about me as a person and the issues that I have when it comes to big stompy robots, in that I just can't stop making silly versions of things that are already kind of silly. Yes, despite the tempting lure of all the armies that I've never actually collected or played, or armies that I had back in the day and never got round to picking up again, it seems we are going to not step out into unknown waters. We're not going to walk along mysterious shores and move out into the wilderness of things and places and miniatures that we've never experienced before. No, it turns out my main project for 10th is going to be more goddamn Dreadnoughts. Is this a good use of my time? Probably not. Do I need to repaint all of the ones I've already painted? Probably yes. I don't actually know what colour scheme I want to go for. All I know is that really the one that I like the most out of the things that I've painted is the one with the giant comedy gun, so I might just copy that particular paint scheme onto all of the others. It needs some touching up, it needs some work, it's very rough and ready, but it is also quite fun, and so maybe that's the best way to go. Maybe we just ignore trying to create amazing works of art and we just go for filth and rust and grime. Or perhaps we take the unpainted Leviathan, this lad here, and we try and decide what to do as a community. I mean, we're going to be streaming on Thursday. We're probably going to do a bit of painting. So maybe we come up with a colour scheme for the second Dreadmob whilst we go. Maybe this becomes the test bed for the Dreadmob Mark II. Maybe that's what this guy's purpose in life is. Should I pick up something other than Dreadnoughts? Probably. Should I try a faction that isn't Space Marines? Probably. Should I have thought more about what I actually wanted to do for 10th instead of looking at the Dreadnought army that I'm already unintentionally amassing and try and do something different and unique and like I've never done before? Quite possibly. Do I want to do any of that? No, because I want Dreadnoughts. I've got Dreadnoughts. I've got quite a few Dreadnoughts. I have more unbuilt Dreadnoughts, and I now have a way to just play nothing but Dreadnoughts. And if you thought that I was going to do anything other than take the opportunity to run a Dreadmob without having to ask people to let me run a Dreadmob, now that I can actually just pull it off as the rules allow, I mean, you must have been off your face if you thought I wasn't going to take this golden opportunity to go back to Dreadnoughts. My question though is, are you doing what I'm doing? Are you just going back to an old idea and making it anew because that silly idea that you had before is actually now, maybe not viable, but something that you can get away with? Have you decided to go for something completely new and unknown to you? Or are you waiting? Are you waiting until we know what points costs are and how that is going to affect your army building? Let me know in the comments, because I'm super interested to know whether people are just going to go back to what they know, whether they're going to venture out into the wild. Now, in line with the new Patreon and YouTube membership benefits that we've implemented across the channel, it's time to welcome some new and existing patrons and members. There are quite a few people here who have been supporting the channel for a long time, and whether or not they continue now that these things have changed, they still need the shout out. I will say right now, you're going to have to strap in because people are incredibly generous, and as such, this is going to take a while. A huge thank you to Umbra Mortis, Joshua Gowardson, Beast Tamer Sev, Monkey Mail, Liam Dempsey, Steve Foote, Liam Walsh, Sam Martindale, Jay Craft, Martin Addy, John Doe, Chris Navter, Lord, Giles Cuddy, Dave Seth, Daniel Brown, Rob Penson, Christian Sogreen, Xavier Robert, TJ Cameron Brown, Owen Humphreys, P, Panny Mauser, Crooner, Jonkin, Steve Saunders, Martin Champion, Dane Lord, Jace, Sezo Zufu, James S, Jonathan Morose, Patrick, Tim Zed, William Hill, Tim Allen, Storm Tapping, Adam White, Thomas Baker, Jack C, FR, Mike Delagrosso, Tio Rios Ramirez, Variance Hammer, Kit Sung, Andrew Hasfoot, Hervey Turtle, wow, Kairis, God King of the Pantry, James Naston, James Kynaston, Japanese Peace Lily, Patrick Bauer, Giovanni DiMaggio, Nick Hutchins, David Greenblatt, Paul Fraser, Marcus, JP, Scugger, Thomas Beasley, Dark Soul 1, Matthew McDonald, Josh Board, Daniel Garcia, number 251137, Diablo NYC, Vilas Reinhardt, Bastion Off, Tom, Eric Locks, Michael Haskell, John Kjellberg, Torbjorn Stein Sale, Christian Breitenberger, Aria Morningstar, Jackson Jewell, Kingy, Peter Fastener, Felix C, Andrew Haynes, Sam Braddock 21, Animation Rich and Atwood, Chris Adams, Jason Mercer, Martin, Neil Withers, Bert Gravy, Alan, Latranger, Maddie78, Red X, Daniel Jeffs, Josh Caratenuto and Craig Ball. Now, unless a bunch of you decide to become YouTube members or support me on Patreon, don't worry, it's not going to be that long a list of names every single time. And remember, at a certain level, you will always have your name in the credits at the end of the video, which we are speeding towards right now. Before I go, I just want to say a big thank you to all of you for the support you've shown since the last video. Changing the way the channel works and changing the way I work might not seem like that big a deal, but just getting it out there and working out what I want to do and how I want to do it, and you lot being as accepting of that as you have been, has made a massive difference to me already. Things weren't working before, and it already feels different. It already feels like we have a clear direction, and that things are going to work out here. Thank you again for all of your support. I will see you for the next one.